back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here fit and firing on a Friday night. Joining me is Mr. Liam Hancock.
Going on, guys, Lee here.
And Mr. Ro Hancock.
How we going, guys?
The band's back together. It's been a massive week across the NBA. Also, a couple of little other NBL notes to touch on shortly. But some week, lads. The conference finals. We've had one series wrap up today. Another in the East still going. And we'll touch on that a little bit more during the episode. But what a week of ball it's been. How have you guys found it?
Yeah, well, we've got right to the point here now, haven't we? It's where the legends are made, and there's already one team who have made the finals, so I'm sure we'll touch on a fair bit shortly. But yeah, most exciting time of the year,
mate. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. As we said, we'll touch on a couple of quick odds and ends, a couple of NBL points. We'll get into those games as well as giving kind of our predictions for the upcoming NBA finals, which are set to tip off next Friday, I believe, is here in Australia.
Yep.
So looking forward to doing that. We're also we're bringing in a new little segment for the next couple of weeks till the upcoming NBA draft. I don't know, have we settled on a name yet?
What name did you give before? Draft deep dive?
Draft deep dive, yeah.
I like that.
A little bit rough around the edges, but we'll go with that. What we're each going to do over the coming weeks is kind of give a bit of a scouting report on a draft prospect that intrigues us, excites us, and just take it from there. Just kind of build our knowledge along with all of our listeners' knowledge about the players we're going to be keeping an eye out for over the next couple of months.
Yep,
we've done it before, and it's fun because you can look at it when they come into the NBA, and you kind of follow them.
I'm trying to think who the picks were for this season.
I did Davion Mitchell, and that's been fun. And I did Sharif Cooper, who hasn't done a whole lot.
Is he in the league still?
He's in the league. I don't know if he's
What's his name?
Sharif Cooper.
Who's he playing for?
Plays for the Hawks, but they've
Sharif Hooper?
Cooper. I think he might have been the smallest in the draft, but doesn't get much playing time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who our names
were.
Ro
had Keon Johnson.
Oh, Keon Johnson, old Keon. Yeah. I forgot about that bloke.
I've got Buckley's idea who I had, so
I've got more confidence this time around, though.
Surely you had Giddy, Nick.
He had Giddy for the entirety of last year.
And the year before, I reckon. So that's all right. Before we get into the rest of today's show, guys, be sure to check out all of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Like, share. Just share with a friend. That's a big one. Share with a friend, eh?
I'm always tempted to mention LinkedIn, but I'm not sure how.
Mate, I have had some good traction on my LinkedIn this week, to be honest.
A few big connections.
Yeah, a few more connections, but maybe we might make that a little segment. Because I know you're in LinkedIn as well, Ro. We should do our LinkedIn connection of the week. That could be fun.
Okay. New segment.
So check us out on there.
Teaser for you.
Guys, a big shout out to Pop Culture Pros, the Spotlight Sports Network, and our friend Lee McGraw over at the cover. As we've said, week in and week out, we're super stoked to be a part of those three networks, doing wonderful things for up-and-coming content creators such as ourselves.
Yep. Lovely.
Lads, without further ado, let's get into it. First point, the All-NBA defensive teams. Now, I'll rip through these and you can kind of give your thoughts on them.
Yep.
The NBA first team for all-defensive was Giannis, Mikal Bridges, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Marcus Smart. The second team there was Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, Matisse Thybulle, and Robert Williams.
Yeah.
So, any big surprises, any glaring omissions for you lads?
I think these are pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I can't really fault them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, likewise, I thought the same. Like, you've got, that kind of pool. You could have, argued a couple of them made the first team, a couple the second, but all 10 of those players rightly deserving to be on those two teams. Yep. Not much to talk about there, so I might transition that to the All-NBA teams, which I'm sure there might be a little more debate or points on that.
Yes.
In the first team, we had Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Giannis, Jason Tatum, and Nikola Jokic. In the second team was Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and I almost said Jordan Poole, but Ja Morant.
He looks a bit similar in that photo.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
In the third team, we had the King LeBron James, Chris Paul, Pascal Siakam, Karl Anthony Towns, and Trae Young. Fellas, how did you feel about these three?
Is all NBA positionless, or
it is positionless?
I would.
But I think, they kind of did it with that one center, which I like because I know that was a point of debate we had a couple of weeks ago. I like how they went the one center.
Yeah, me too.
So do I. And there was a bit of uproar about that though, wasn't there?
There was indeed.
But, I'm fairly happy with that overall, to be perfectly honest with you.
How about the Devin Booker point?
That's probably the contentious one, isn't it?
Devin Booker or Steph Curry?
All NBA first team. I would put Steph over Book.
You would?
But Book's had a great year, but I think Steph's just been on another level.
Yeah, it's a funny one, that, isn't it? Because you almost well, I'll try to tie that in with the point of the Miami Heat.
Yeah,
team that finished top of their conference, the Eastern Conference, still going as we speak, but not one member of that Heat team made an All NBA team. Now, it kind of bears weight to what Booker did as well. Do you place more emphasis on individual, I guess, statistics or team record? What weight does that have as well? So, yeah, it's a bit of a funny one with Booker. I think he almost got a bit of a nudge with that record.
I would even put Jar over him, to be honest.
That was the other one. There was Curry and Jar, and I guess for big parts throughout the season, we had them in that one team, in the first team, should I say. But, it's awesome. Like, it just shows, all 15 players, what great hands the league's in.
Yep.
The other point, though, Karl Anthony Towns or Bam Adebayo, which way were you going on that one?
I'll go Cat.
I had Cat as well. To be perfectly honest, I had a look at our All-NBA teams predictions earlier this year. I think the only one in all three of those teams that I didn't have was Trae Young.
I think you and I have Trae, Lee. I know, I'm pretty sure I did.
Potentially did. But what I'm saying, I guess, overall is that I'm fairly happy with how they've gone about those three teams. Absolutely. There's always going to be snubs. I guess, as you were mentioning before, Nick, back on to the Miami Heat, their team record was incredible. But who do you take out of those teams? I don't know.
I think the only candidates maybe Siakam, maybe Trae, and maybe Cat. Okay. They're probably the only three names I could probably give you that you could to and fro with.
The other thing with Jimmy though is he missed a fair bit of time throughout the year.
Indeed, he's notorious for missing game time, but it's awesome to have these teams finally, I guess, released.
Yes.
Thumbs up, Lee.
Thumbs up. I only really care about the first two teams. The third team is pretty interchangeable, is it not?
Mate, you can't say that when LeBron James and Chris Paul are on it.
You've got to have a bit of care. A couple of the players, namely Siakam, maybe Trae Young, maybe Cat. The two the two first teams, I'm like, all right, these better be pretty solid, spot on.
Yep.
Third, I don't really care about.
It'll be contentious.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, we'll move ahead, lads. Big news during the week for Denver and the Minnesota Timberwolves there. Denver president Tim Connelly has joined the Timberwolves on a 5-year, $40 million deal. It also includes some potential ownership equity in the franchise, which is huge as well for him.
Yep.
It's a big coup for the Wolves, who are kind of really building nicely now. He was one of the most sought-after presidents there within the league, and it's really, pulled some strings there for Denver. So a great sign of what the Wolves are doing in their kind of, I guess elevation up the standings in their franchise.
Absolutely. That's a big acquisition. And the other thing is it just shows the kind of faith that this guy must have in the Wolves going forward, because you don't even look at these kind of teams if you don't see any upside going forward. And I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that the Wolves are going to be scary in a few years when these guys gel a bit more, mature a little more, as we'll mention in the other week. That's a big get. Big
role in Denver now as well. It leaves a hell of a hole in there. I believe was it the fourth or fifth largest salary bill they've got now. They've got Jokic, they've got Murray, they've got Porter. Like, where are they at is the big question, and what is kind of the plan moving forward? Do you kind of put all your faith in them, or what are the moves to be made? So I'm looking forward to seeing what their off season entails.
I'll tell you what, if you're Denver, you're wanting to place the right pieces around Jokic, and I think that's paramount for me if I'm the Denver Nuggets management at the moment. You want to put in the right recovery plan for Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Absolutely,
because they're going to be key in their success. Jokic, we've seen this year, can't do it all on his own.
Yep.
They're going to have to get back out there.
Lee, what do you reckon?
You don't need to make any major changes. Obviously, I think their core is pretty.
You think they're in and around the mix still with that top tier talent?
Yeah, because we haven't seen at least for a year or maybe 2 years, all three. And when I say all three, I'm talking about Yokes, MPJ and Murray play together.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see that. They probably need to work a little bit on their supporting cast. I like Boogie coming off the bench. I love that.
I think he's a real handy piece to keep. I reckon you're looking more at your Campazzos and Rivers are probably candidates for liquidation there. Yes, we all await with eager anticipation about what the future holds for the Nuggets. moving ahead, and speaking of eager anticipation, we might cast our eyes forward a couple of years here. Now, per John Casano, the league looks set to be announced 2 new expansion teams in 2024. Not confirmed, but it's looking likely. So Las Vegas and Seattle being the markets for those 2.
Yes.
Lads, what do we think about this?
How do you bring a new team into the league? Like, is it all fresh new players, or no, I guess not?
Well, look what the JackJumpers did this season.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a different league, but
the same kind of, I guess, background. You've got, a pool of players. There'll be, trades and things of the kind, signings. Look at a couple of rookies from elsewhere. That's not going to be a concern at all.
For me, these were the 2 logical options going forward. I think it's sort of just a matter of time, really, at this point as to when the league expands. And we certainly thought that Seattle was one of the obvious candidates, but Las Vegas as well.
Huge potential there.
So,
how do you feel about this? Bringing 2 new teams in? Do you like it? Do you think it's good for the league? Because personally, I think it's fantastic.
I can't wait.
And it's like touches on what we spoke about with the NBL last week, capitalizing on that popularity, expansion. I think it's awesome. These 2 markets are going to be booming, I reckon, and it just keeps the league fresh and exciting. I was doing the math in my head today, I believe. Now let me just quickly, that'll 31 to 62. Yeah, and you can't. Yeah. So if you, I guess in terms of leagues, we've got an 82 game season at the minute. I think the math is right. If you cut it to 81 games, each team plays all other, so it'll be 32 teams, so 31 teams twice.
Yep.
62 games. Then in their conference, they play each team in their conference again. So that would be a further 19 games.
Yep.
So 81, I believe, if I've done that correctly off the top of my head there. 81 games. It doesn't really alter the actual scheduling too much, but bringing in 2 new teams, how exciting would that be?
It's going to be huge for the growth of the game, isn't it? I was thinking as soon as I heard that Las Vegas team announcement, I was thinking of potential targets. Do you know who the first guy who came to my head was?
Yeah. Hold on.
Who loves the nightlife?
James Harden.
Jimmy H. Yeah. I think Jimmy H is heading to Vegas.
I thought that too, and I thought, imagine the damage he would do.
I know.
Lou Williams.
Not only in the clubs, but also he's got a big salary.
Yes.
He could blow a lot of that on the old tables, rolling the dice just one more time.
There's going to be a lot of sneaky business happening in Las Vegas over those few years because they're not allowed to gamble, but you just get the feeling that then if you build a team in Las Vegas, what else are you going to do in your spare time?
Hang out in the desert for a while. There's not
Walk
much
around
to
the
do,
tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you about to say, Lee? I cut you off.
I was going to say I'd love in 2 years, 2024, for James Harden to be like, nah, I'm going back to my old ways and have a team built around him like Houston, because that's when we all loved the beard.
You reckon he's washed? He's not getting any younger too.
He's not washed.
He is washed. What do you mean?
No, I'm a James Harden fan. I love
Did
him.
you watch that series, the playoffs?
I did.
What did he do?
He didn't do a whole lot.
He went missing.
Yeah.
What's he done the last few years? Gone missing.
He's trying.
Man, he's trying. He's trying. So
and that's all you can ask
the participation award, isn't it? No, fellas. Do you guys have anything else from the NBA?
No, Nick, I don't.
Tremendous. Let's transition to the NBL. Fun little stat here I saw during the week. The grand final this year was up an average of 133% in viewership compared to the season prior. Now, that's more than double. That's double and a third the viewership from the previous season on average. Again, just reiterating, it shows, just the league, its growth, how that booming popularity is phenomenal. And also just a little note on the actual success and excitement this JackJumpers team's brought. So I want to tie that in with the point we just made about the NBA expansion. Look at the positive impact this has had on the league and what it'll no doubt have for the NBA as well. It's tremendous.
It is tremendous, Nick. But the thing is, yes, it's been enormous for Tasmania, and that's been the main benefactor of obviously the JackJumpers coming in. But it's also helped out the sport in Australia in general. The interest in the NBL, particularly since the JackJumpers have come in. 130. The numbers speak for itself. What is it? Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. No, you're right. Yep. Ball don't lie.
Ball don't lie. Ain't that the truth? But it's been huge, and you just get the feeling that percentage will continue to grow going forward as well.
100%. Lee, yourself, you're going to be a part of that uptick next season, aren't you, mate?
I'll be.
You're going to have a big vested interest in it, aren't you?
I will.
I'm looking forward to discussing everything NBL with you next season. It'll be fun.
I'll try.
Now, Nick, I might jump in here if you don't mind.
Please do.
So, I guess people down in Tassie might have heard old Scott Roth on the radio this morning, and there was a bit of interest in what he had to say regarding some of the Tassie JackJumpers imports, namely Joshy Adams, Josh Majette, and Mikhail McIntosh. So we've got a bit of an idea as to where they might be at the moment and what their status might be. Let me just read you a few quotes from Scott Roth regarding these three players.
I haven't heard.
So our marquee player, JA, Joshy Adams, Scott Roth said, he's getting $1 million offers in China and some other places, and we're nowhere near able to compete with some of these teams in Europe.
Well, the salary cap's like 1.5 million or something here anyway, so...
It's going to be a lifestyle choice for him or a situation where he only has X amount of years to play and he can go and make as much money as possible. Let's read between the lines. Don't think Joshy's coming back next
you
year.
don't reckon?
I know.
I don't think so.
He's been, a huge part of the building the franchise,
Always
getting out with fans, blah, 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 whatever else. But if
That's
you're getting
a shame.
offered 7 figures to go elsewhere to play ball, as Scott Ross said, you have a limited window as a player, and you've got to capitalize and get that bag. So
you've got to set yourself up for the future.
Are you going to China for it? I'm not going to China.
Why not?
I reckon JA's heading to China.
I reckon so. He can hang out Brian Gorgian over there as well. Head coach of the Hawks, he's gone over there. I mean, it's a good league. It is a really good league.
It's a good league also for exposure as well. Like, obviously, we want him to stay with the Jackies down in the NBL, but, China's one of these leagues which gets a lot of attention from the NBA, so it does keep his NBA dream alive.
What is he, 27, 28?
Yeah, he's probably getting up there.
So, he's probably got one last crack at it. And, again, he's got to get that bread. Got to put food on the table for the family. So you couldn't fault him, would thank him and wave him bon voyage.
Bon voyage for old JA. Yeah. Love you, JA. Next one, Joshy Majette.
Yes.
Scott Ross said, I feel like we're getting close to maybe having something done with him, but we're still going through that process.
Okay.
Again,
more positive.
Read between the lines. So this sounds like he could be. My money would be on him returning for at least another season, Josh Majette. I think he's heart and soul type player of the Jackies this year.
I think so too.
Just lastly, Nick, Mikhail McIntosh, your fave. Scotty Ross said, we'll probably end up changing over Mikhail and trying to get someone just a little bit bigger in that position.
Take nothing away from him. He
Absolutely not.
Oh, God damn. We speak of Chris Middleton and the Ferris wheel. This guy is a roller coaster. What a roller coaster of emotions it's been for us as fans watching him. For him as a player, probably he's been, loved to hated pretty much overnight. He's had some big moments, big moments for this team. You can't fault his heart. Has lacked in certain points just with some game awareness and whatever else, but that's, part of the territory. But, again, another player will probably thank and say bon voyage.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing with, again, reading between the lines.
You are doing a lot of reading.
There's a lot of reading between the lines at the moment. But what was I about to say? So Mikhail McIntosh, he's done everything he possibly can given the injury to Will Magnay, who Will Magnay's, obviously NBA talent. He was our marquee signing. I guess Mikhail had to stand up given the fact that Magnay was out for large chunks of the season. And, he was going up against the, elite big men in the league. And, at times he stood his own, at other times he struggled. What more could you really ask for him in that second half of the season? He definitely improved. I'll give him that.
He did.
He was shaky greens early days.
A couple of games earlier on in the season, you and I were pretty much front and centre of the get rid of him.
Yeah, Merv was looking a bit shaky.
Merv was on the next plane home.
He was. And I think he would even admit that, wouldn't he? But, I think... Yeah, this one probably didn't surprise me as much. Yeah, a lot of ticker.
Against all adversity, so fair play.
Yep.
Speaking of the JackJumpers, they had their awards night the other night, last Saturday night. The MVP, Josh Adams, finished first, 172 votes. Second was Jack McVeigh with 167, so very close there. And third, Josh Majette with 160 votes.
Yep.
Phenomenal season from all three. The Coaches Award went to Big Fabe Krislovich.
Yes.
Fantastic there. The Fan Favourite Award, Jack McVeigh. DPOY was Matty Kenyon, and the Players Award went to Jared Weeks.
Yep.
So
I can't complain with any of those. I would have given it to the same blokes.
No. Yeah, looking at them, like that's pretty bang on the money.
It is.
Pretty bang on the money. So, again, that kind of, I guess, puts a line through what has been a phenomenal season for the Jack Jumpers. I tell you what, I am buzzing already. October can't come soon enough for the next season. Yes. What do you reckon, Lee? You pumped?
God, I'll need to get into it.
I'm
sick of sitting here like this throughout the NBL.
Actually,
segment.
Probably one other bit of notable news was the big signing for the Illawarra Hawks. NBL finalist winner there, Wani Swaka-Labullock from the Sydney Kings going to Illawarra there, down in the Gong. So a big signing there. In the Gong. Out in the Wollongong.
Yep.
Fellas, let's move ahead.
Let's talk NBL.
The Daily Dribble.
Almost feel like we need to do that again as Lee was talking.
Take two.
The Daily Dribble.
You can't take away from the transition.
You can't every week point out that we're doing a transition.
I wasn't.
I don't think there's been one seamless The Daily Dribble without us mentioning it. I shake my head every week.
Absolutely has been.
I think we spent 20 seconds too long.
You haven't failed us this week either, Nick.
No. All right, mate.
That's all good.
All right, let's move ahead.
What segment?
So here's the point. Just on the NBA, we're going to have a bit of a chat about that, the week that was, some of the takeaways, and then go into our predictions for the finals. Now, the big point I wanted to start with was, can you do us a favour and give us a close game?
Yeah,
my goodness, there has been some just ordinary games in terms of scorelines and actually excitement down in that fourth quarter and crunch time. There has been zero. We'll start with the Eastern Conference now. With the Heat, I really think they shot themselves in the foot in Game 4 and 5 here, and probably almost shot themselves out of the series. You know, we've got Game 6 here tomorrow, but they've not done themselves any favours.
Certainly not.
Got some stats here from Game 4.
Oh, say the big one.
Give it to us.
The 5 combined starters went for a total of 18 points.
Come on.
This being the lowest recorded total in a playoff game since the record started being tracked in 1970-71, which was just ridiculous. 18 points.
Horrendous.
Victor Oladipo had 23 points alone off the bench. The first time a bench player has had more than the starting 5 again since that 1970-71 mark there. So it's just on that. That is absolutely disgraceful.
Says it all.
Disgraceful.
What about the other stat? I don't know if it was Game 4 or 5. I think it might have been 5, but Heat went 7 from 45 from 3.
15.6%. Kyle Lowry and Max Strus in that one went a combined 0 of 15 from the field. So it's a shame for this Heat team because, you know, Jimmy's been injured. Lowry's coming back from injury. Hero's missed time. Like, they're just not healthy. It's come at the worst possible time. They just kind of look battered and out of ideas.
They do.
They look exhausted too. I think everyone looks exhausted, and that's resulting in some pretty poor quality bowl.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind, and I wouldn't be angry at the league if they did this. Give them a night off, I'd say. Just put it's all right if I miss a game in a day. That's fine. Just give them a night off and let them rest up so we get some quality bowl. That's my one solution.
I reckon they'd be loving that idea. I tell you who wouldn't be loving it. Adam Silver. Money talks.
I think it's probably one where you need to look at it more in the back end of these series. Games 5, 6, and 7 where they're traveling. The games up till 4 where you've got 2 in each market, it's not so bad. I likewise agree. I'd rather have that day off and get a better quality, game. Because these have been very, very ordinary. There's, it's kind of been one and done by half time for most of them.
The thing is, though, like the NBA seasons and, I guess the playoffs after, it's always been a war of attrition, hasn't it? It's always been who can, persist for the longest. Who's
got some ticker?
Who's got the heart, Nick? That's exactly right.
Can't be bought, can't be taught.
Put the coin in the jar. But yes, the Heat are looking, it's really strange for mine because they're a team who, for the majority of this season, have looked so full of energy and looked so full of heart and, hungry. And, in this series, particularly the last, last 3 or 4 games, they've looked deflated. They've looked like a team who has quite simply run out of petrol tickets.
We know what the big problem is for me, and I'll tie this in with the Celtics. The Celtics D has just been far, far too good.
Way better.
For the most part, the Heat, they're on the defensive side, they've been good too. But it's just their offensive output. Now, The big key in the Celtics, I think, has been Rob Williams.
Yeah.
When he's been playing, Adebayo just looks in all sorts. It was game 3 that Williams missed. Bam had 31 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists and 4 steals, and was just an absolute animal. When Williams is in, though, Bam just looks almost scared. Scared to get in the paint, scared to kind of play with that kind of same intensity. He just looks all sorts. And for a guy you're kind of almost building your franchise around, it's troubling signs against, a pretty young defender there in Williams.
Is the Bam situation, though, I've been thinking about this, is it more of a mindset thing with Bam? Because the other day, Bam came out all guns blazing. He looked like, there was people saying he looked like the second coming of bloody Shaq.
Yeah.
And he was showing signs of Giannis. That's how good he was playing the other day. I think it was the last time the Heat won in that series.
Game 3.
Yeah.
Game 3.
So is it just a matter of switching on and knowing, obviously the Celtics defense, it does drain you, and it takes it out of even the best big men in the league, as seen with Bam Adebayo.
Absolutely.
But is it a thing for him, just having that concentration,
Long and short of it, I think he's got to stop being a little bitch and just take it up to Williams. But
is that a mental thing, or is it like I'm struggling to see where he's falling short?
Physically, he's going to match up.
Physically,
no worries,
there.
No worries. So it's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
Funny one there. Lee, what have you?
I honestly think it comes back to what you were saying a bit earlier, how much sleep they got the night before. And I think people, like you were saying, tend to forget that it's not a Boston versus Brooklyn series where they travel a couple of minutes down the road. They're traveling from Miami to Boston, and that takes a toll on you if you're doing that every second day.
So you.
I think
both teams are doing that, though, aren't they?
Yeah, I know, but it comes back to his mentality. But I think sometimes he's looking tired, and sometimes he's looking a bit more energetic.
And maybe that's why the Heat love the bubble so much. Just had to walk out the hotel room.
To be honest, that was what they were made for. That bubble was that.
They were in their element.
They were in their element 100%. That was just a phenomenal run there, but they couldn't get the chocolates there. But just on the Celtics, Derek White and Al Horford, there have been 2 names that have stood out for me.
Absolutely, yep.
Just with the output, their output is almost found money.
Mm.
You're going to expect from Brown and Tatum probably combined 60, give or take. Yep. Marcus Smart's going to chip in with 12 or so. But what Horford and White in particular have been doing, it's, having that, I guess, that value on both ends, tremendous. You couldn't be happier.
I would argue and say that Al Horford has been the barometer throughout this series for the Boston Celtics. Yeah, he's the experienced guy who's been there, done that. Yeah. We know this, but he's also he's a guy who not only speaks, he's not only a leader verbally, but he's a leader by his actions as well. And that's been plain to see throughout the course of this series. Derek White, I love that you've mentioned him because he's a guy that probably doesn't get credit where it's due. He's been outstanding, particularly that game where Marcus Smart was out.
Yeah.
He came out and scored out
9 points.
Yeah. He was going off to begin that game.
That's how you set
looked
the tone,
like he was meant for it.
Yeah. And that was probably a trade we didn't mention enough in the trade deadline mid-season there, that Derek White acquisition. But he's
a smart player, high basketball IQ.
Very smart player. So
sorry, I remember maybe a year ago, and just throughout the podcast in general, we've always said Celtics really need a quality big man to be able to succeed. Have they got that? Not even in just Rob Williams, but in Al Horford as well, kind of a combination of these big men. Are you happy with where they're at big-wise, right?
I'm over the moon with it as it stands at the moment. I think Rob Williams, for us, particularly defensively, is just elite. And, Al Horford's actually one of my favourite players, big old Al.
And Ticey as well.
It's a pretty good big lineup for a team that was struggling for so long without one. I'm very happy. I do understand that Al Horford is probably, it's fair to say, in his twilight of his career. He's on his back 9, isn't he?
Yeah.
As it stands at the moment, when we're pushing for this championship, I think I've been really stoked with the big men.
Gee, what he's got a rockin' tan, doesn't he, Al Horford?
He does.
He's got some great colour.
That's up there with Spo tan, I reckon.
Yeah, true. Get him in a tight polo top and they could be brothers. Fellas, any last takeaways from this series? Going forward, we've got Game 6 tomorrow. Do you think it's almost a foregone conclusion that the Celtics get this one, or do you think the Heat are any chance? And if so, is going to be the difference.
No, there's no logical answer for the Heat to win next game, especially at home. Boston are gonna
negative Nancy.
They're gonna finish this series at home.
Yeah.
It's gonna be over next game.
I've got a pretty good idea which way you're going, but go on then.
Look, I think if the Heat won that last game, it was game on. I think they could not afford to lose that one. Celtics going back home, looking, and the Celtics knowing that it's just one and done to a certain extent to get into the finals, they'll give everything, and I reckon they'll end it in this next game.
It's a funny one because I've got to agree. For a team I've kind of ridden pretty hard this year, the Heat, who I've been very high on, they've just hit that wall at the wrong time.
Hit the dead end.
And I think especially that crowd in a closeout game, Game 6 at the TD Garden, Boston is going to be pumping.
Yes.
And I think this one could be over pretty quickly. Yep. I think so this could be over pretty quickly. Boston, I reckon, are going to the NBA Finals.
Yep.
Fellas, let's move ahead to the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we saw today the Mavs get knocked out. Game 5, they went down 120 to 110. Just on this, I was stoked to see the Mavs get a win in Game 4 because I don't think they've been that far off the pace. That Game 2, they really should have won. And if they won that, got that one on the road, 1-0, going back to Dallas, who knows what would have happened. They led that for pretty much the entire game till the fourth quarter, then fell apart.
Yep.
But, I think this series is probably closer than a 4-1. I think the Mavs have been good. I just think, they've kind of lived by the 3-ball, die by the 3-ball. They hit 40% today, but it just hasn't been the case throughout all these games in this series. So, if they're not falling, they're in trouble. Yep. But I think this team, I like them. I like them a lot, and I think they're going to be back in and around this mark over the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah, look, I'm with you. And I think it was a valiant effort, all things considered, because, at the end of the day, you look at that Warriors team on paper against that Mavs team, and, obviously Luka Doncic is the superstar of the highest order, but that Warriors team have got not only superstars, but they've got guys who have had championship experience, multiple years of championship experience. Yeah. So I think they've done really well. Can only see it going up for the Mavericks, particularly with a player like Luka Doncic at the helm. It's not a team that you can see falling back down the ladder anytime soon. They're going to be up there for a long while. From the Mavs' perspective,
he is a problem, isn't he?
He's a problem. He's a bad man, isn't he? He's naughty. But from the Mavs' perspective, they just have to align him with other players who will suit his game going forward.
Got a name here. I'm going to throw out into the ether and just see how it lands. I haven't done this in the trade machine, but here's a name I think that would be good for them.
Right.
John Collins.
Johnny
from the Atlanta Hawks. A power forward who can actually, play on both ends, can stretch the floor with his ability to shoot. There's rumors of him being on the move, so he could be a piece that could actually be gotten.
That's interesting.
And I just think they are probably still, he's a piece, but I think they're also lacking a quality center on both ends of the floor because they need a little more offensive output. Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, they're not quite it. I think they're probably maybe another power forward and a good center away from being top-tier challengers there.
It's why that acquisition or that rumored acquisition of Rudy Gobert was so attractive.
Yeah.
Because how much would, obviously on the defensive end, but this year he's shown, particularly early days, that he was a really good offensive option. And then the Jazz obviously just stopped using him full stop.
The only thing I worry about that, I like that one. The only thing is I'd hate to see the Mavs slow down for waiting for that big piece of timber to get up the floor with Brunson.
Yep, I can see that.
Luke he's sneaky quick. They're quite a fast lineup. I just hope that wouldn't slow them down too much.
Yeah.
But I like that. Imagine just having that lot, that threat there in the paint. It enables their shooters there to Bullock, Finney-Smith, all of them just stretch out and just keep knocking threes. But then they've got someone who can possibly get those offensive boards and second chance points.
Yeah, I like your suggestion, Nick. Johnny C. Put it into the trade machine.
I'll get something rigged up off season. Lee, what do you reckon about this series? How have you found it?
Can't take anything away from Luka, obviously. This doesn't do any harm to his legacy whatsoever. The fact that they got one win. He did everything he could. And I saw JJ Redick say, in essence, he's surrounded by second round draft picks, really.
Oh, yeah, he is.
So it surprised me that they got this far, to be honest. But Warriors, they're just on a different level. They're 9-0 at home games in the playoffs this series. The only thing that worries me with the Warriors and even going into the finals is some of their deficits. Not so much their lost deficits, but the fact that they've been down by 29 in some games, they've been down by big numbers in some games. It's not a good look, and it's not something you want to bring to the NBA Finals. But
let's just transition to that. Do you guys have anything else you want to mention on that series before we head into the NBA?
No, they're the main points, I reckon.
Well, let's go. Let's base the NBA Finals. Let's base it that tomorrow Celtics get up.
Yep.
Game 6. I know we're doing it somewhat prematurely, but
done deal.
That could. I tell you what, we can clip that.
I'm going to wait until next. I'm going to wait till tomorrow to upload this one.
Famous last words. But we'll go ahead to the finals, and we'll base it on the fact that we're expecting the Warriors and Celtics finals here.
Yes.
What a tantalizing series this one is on both ends of the floor. Both teams have incredible defenses, incredible offenses as well. I just think though the offensive output. I'm notorious.
Come on, mate! Don't do this again.
I'm notorious for doing this to you, Ro. But I just think with
typical
Curry,
from a Lakers fan.
Thompson, yeah, absolutely. Thompson as well today was cooking.
Yeah,
I think he's heating up at the right time. He's kind of been a slow build. But I think Paul Wiggins. I just think they've got too many options probably. Whereas you're looking at the Celtics, you've got Brown and Tatum, they're a given. And you're hoping you get enough out of Smart, Horford, White, Williams. It's kind of a little more iffy. I think you've got more proven scoring with the Warriors.
Okay.
So I'm leaning towards them in 7. But I think it's going deep. It's going to be a fun series.
Yeah, I tend to agree, apart from the winner of that series. Now, look,
there's no world in which you're ever going to say the Celtics.
Absolutely not. And look, we don't want to count our chickens before the hatch. Like, hopefully the Celtics get through, so this makes sense. But I think the Celtics defensively have enough against this Golden State Warriors team to at least limit their offense.
Yep.
They've got guys who are generally offensive threats on any given night, but our defense, and we've seen it in the last half of the year, has been, I think, the best defense in the league.
Yeah. Yep.
And it will be a different story for the Golden State Warriors coming up against the Boston Celtics, as opposed to the Dallas Mavericks. They've got multiple defensive threats, but they've also got multiple offensive threats. Now, I did want to touch on Lee's point before again about the Warriors and their deficits that they've had. Teams have found holes in the way that they play, and it's been plain and obvious to see. And I tell you what, there would be a little thing at the back of the Warriors' minds at the moment that it's not a guarantee. It's not going to be a guaranteed contest or competitive game for them unless their mind's in it.
Do you reckon they throw that game
minutes.
for? Do you reckon they wanted to close it out at home in the Bay Area there?
I mean. No, they just would have wanted to get the job. I can say I like your thinking, but no, I think they've been found out a few times. Yeah. But yeah, what a contest that's going to be.
Bro, how many games do you reckon this is going?
I would say Celtics, if they make the finals, in 7.
I like how you put that little,
I just wanted to put a disclaimer there, little
asterisks.
Yep.
It's going to be fun, Lee. What do you think, mate?
Even as I'm talking and the words are coming out of my mouth right now, I still don't have an answer for you. Because one thing you guys haven't mentioned, and I do agree entirely with Ro, how I think the Celtics defense will find out the Golden State Warriors not fast, because you can't. There's no really way to stop Steph Curry, but I think what we haven't mentioned is the Warriors' experience and how they've been here countless times before. They've been here 6 out of the last, or maybe 7 out of the last 8 or 9 times. Past 8 or 9 years. So I think that'll play a large factor into it. But I do think the Celtics are going to come out on top. You've really got everything you want defensively in the right positions. You've got Marcus Smart coming up against Steph Curry. You've got Jaylen Brown, who has been, I think he's a proven defender against Klay Thompson. And I also think Kevon Looney will get figured out a little bit this series as well. Not that he's setting the world on fire, but I don't think he'll be grabbing 18 boards against Al Horford and Rob Williams.
So how you reckon it's going deep as well? 7?
It's going deep. It's going 7, and I reckon Boston are taking the chip.
Wow. Well, this is, I tell you
I like
what,
that.
I would be very interested. We might have to put a poll up if this actually does come to life. I can just see now that we've actually spoken about this.
We've
the
just
heat
set
will
ourselves
come out.
up.
And, it's
always the
wouldn't
way.
that be so sick?
Oh,
It'd be
dear.
sick for you as well. But
I don't want to think about it.
yeah, no. Positive thoughts only. Positive thoughts only. But it's either way, it's going to be a hell of a series. It's awesome to see the Warriors back with that chance to kind of cement that dynasty, for Steph to kind of cement his place as one of the all-time greats, doing it again without KD. For the Celtics, first chip, first kind of possibly the start of a dynasty. They've got the young pieces there in place, ready to probably duplicate it over the coming years. There's a lot of intriguing storylines in this one. Last question before we move on, lads. Finals MVP pick.
Finals MVP is going to be very...
Do you go Tatum, or I'm guessing you're going to say someone from Boston, given you've got them winning, or do you think it's going to be someone who locks up on the defensive end more?
Look, if Boston win, which I hope they do, I think the narrative would probably go to someone like, Jace Tatum or Jaylen Brown.
Yep.
I think one of those two. If Boston are any chance to win that final series, if they make it, those two have to have huge performances. It's going to take an elite performance. From a Warriors side of things, if they were to win, I just don't see a world in which Steph Curry wouldn't win the Finals MVP.
He deserves one.
Tops off his
deserves one.
accolades. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Likewise, I've got to agree. I've got to say Steph. I think he is man's going to be cooking. Chef in the kitchen, cooking up a storm, I reckon, on this one. He's, this is, again, that chance to really cement his legacy. I don't think he's going to let this chance slide by him again.
Yep.
So I'll say Steph.
And I'm going Jaylen Brown, just because
JB.
I would say Tatum, but he has had some games where he's been off and it's not been his night. And I feel like Jaylen Brown more so has nights where he's always on, really.
Just more consistent.
So I'm going JB.
Yep.
Fellas, we're looking forward to it. Set to tip off here next Friday. It's going to be a cracker. Be sure to stay up to date with all of our socials. We'll probably have a few things on that leading up to the game itself. So,
lovely.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys who you think is going to win.
Moving on.
The Daily Dribble.
So, what did we say? Draft deep dive of the week. Here it is, a new segment brought to you by the Daily Dribble team.
Yep.
We're each going to give a draft prospect, give a little bit of a scouting report, what we're looking out for, and just get everyone up to speed with a few of the prospects coming into this year's NBA draft. Now, we didn't touch base on this one during the week who we each had, so let's...
surely we're not crossing over.
I don't think we will. Lee, you look like a guy who wants to start us today.
I'll start. I'm picking a guy that really could go 1 through 3 in the NBA draft. So he's a pretty popular
top-tier talent.
Top-tier talent. Jabari Smith Jr. This guy is something different. He's in his previous season, he's got 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 block. He's 19 years old. He's 6'10". He's a shot maker, but he moves like a guard. He's shooting 43.6% from the 3 as a 6'10". I'd say he's a power forward.
Let it fly, big fan.
You'd take that, wouldn't you?
These threes aren't just catch and shoot. They're not like someone like John Collins where he gets it and he can shoot the 3 ball. This guy's jab stepping. He's moving off the screens. The momentum is going and he's popping them up and he's doing it at a 43% clip. And this guy is also a very versatile defender. He's tough. He hustles. He's got active feet. He's got active hands. And yeah, I'm very high on Jabari Smith Jr.
So where was he last season, sorry?
Auburn Tigers.
Auburn. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So expected in the top 3. I've seen a bit of chat around him.
Yeah.
Which team in that top 3 would like him the most or would be best suited?
Who are we looking at with the top 3 picks? We've got the Magic.
Got the OKC Thunder.
Yep.
I'd say OKC. I think he's a good fit at OKC. He feels that position that they haven't got yet. They've got Giddey at point guard, kind of shoot. They've got both their guards, I'd say. So
they really just need a good big, don't they? So they're kind of set in this draft because the top 3 players are kind of big body players. Yeah, they're setting themselves up nicely. Very keen to see how he plays out, though. That is phenomenal clip from a big guy. So
tell you what,
a name to watch out for.
We might need to rename the segment Draft Deep Dive. We've gone into the shallow end for that one. Top 3.
I did say
didn't have to go very far down the pool, did we?
No floaties needed for that one. Oh, should I go a little bit deeper?
Yeah, go a bit
I'll
deeper.
go a bit deeper. I tell you what,
put your goggles on.
I'm not a proficient swimmer, so I was out here trying to keep afloat. But I've gone with Jaden Hardy.
Okay, Jay Hardy.
I was just waiting to make sure that you didn't have him as well.
You're safe.
He's okay. Here he is, Jaden Hardy.
Welcome.
6'5" shooting guard. He was playing with the G League Ignite team, so the kind of the elite of the elite, hanging out with our boy Dyson Daniels.
Double D. Started
the season quite slowly, but in that second half, really started to find his form, find his feet in that kind of a new setup. Like it was a new initiative for the G League Ignite team. He finished the season averaging 17.7 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Now, he isn't a super athlete. He's not incredibly springy. He's not incredibly quick, but he's more than able to carry his own in this league. He's not going to set the world on fire or break any records, but he gets to his spots really well and a really capable ball handler with the ability of losing his defender. He's almost kind of like Luka, kind of sneaky quick, almost lulls you into that false sense of security.
Yep.
What I like about him now, this isn't going to look good after what Lee's just said, his big man, his shooting clip. He didn't shoot the ball that well this season. He was 27% from 3 and 35% from the field. He's a much better shooter than that. That wasn't a clear reflection. Yeah, not a clear reflection. But what I like about him, this guy has got range. He's looking like logo Lillard, like Steph Curry, Trae Young range. He's going to pull up from some deep spots this season. So that's what really excites me about him. His ability to it's becoming an increasing bigger part of the game, that ability to shoot the deep three ball. Expect him to knocking down some Mountain Dew 3-pointers throughout the year. Junior year at Colorado High, though, this is what stood out to me. How's this?
Here we go. Fun fact.
Junior year, Colorado High, 30.4 points. 9.1 rebounds and 8.4 assists.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
30.5, 9, and 8.5.
Off those stats alone, he'd be going top 3.
Are you taking the piss?
Yeah.
He was really, really high earlier on the year, and he kind of had a slow start, which sent him tumbling down the boards a little bit. Most boards expect him between 17 and 22.
Right, okay.
But there are quite a few reports that he will edge a bit higher than that close to the draft day. So...
Isn't that funny though? Like with the college ball and even like the G League, you either have to have a really good start or a really good finish to finish high in the I guess the draft board.
Just quickly, come on, 30.5 points, 9 rebounds, 8.5 assists. That is big baller energy.
Unreal, you said in his junior year.
Yeah, Colorado High.
Like, how old are you in your junior year?
What are you? 17?
I don't know how it works in America, to be honest with you.
It doesn't matter what year. If you're putting up those stats, that is big time.
You're walking around the school with a bit of swagger on your shoulders up.
It just shows as well his ability, like 6'5", he's getting boards, he's playmaking as well as his ability to score at all 3 levels of the game. I think he was shooting about 88% from the free throw line as well, which is a positive sign.
That's big.
I think it was only on a couple of attempts a game, but positive indicator as well that he's got good mechanics in that stroke. So expect those numbers, 27% and 35% to pick up.
Yeah,
very excited.
Love that.
Also hoping to see him with Matt and Jeff in a TLC game.
I was about to mention that. The old
Hardy boys.
Yep, love that.
Iconic
indeed. My man, I'm going fairly deep as well. I've got Johnny Davis. I love the name, by the way. Johnny Davis.
Sounds like an accountant.
No, he sounds like a rock star.
Yeah,
Johnny Davis.
He sounds like he's got a bit going for him.
Yeah.
So he's a 6'5". So he's a multi-positional player, which I think is really important. He's a shooting guard, small forward. So in his sophomore season with Wisconsin, he averaged 19.7 points and 8.2 rebounds, which is obviously highly respectable in your sophomore season.
It's good.
It's not bad.
I'd take it any day of the week. So Johnny, back to Johnny. So there's a bit of unpredictability at the moment as to where he's likely to go in the draft. Some mock drafts have him at about 6 or 7 or 8. Some of them have slipped him to about 15 to 16. So
you kind of just past the waves breaking, aren't you? You're out there.
Just past there. Yeah. But Johnny is rated as the second best small forward in this year's draft, which is intriguing for a guy who's likely potentially likely to slip down to midway through the first round. I think if whoever gets him is getting a lot of value out of him, and they're getting overs.
Yeah,
given where they'll probably have to pay up for him. So back to Johnny again. So likewise with your guy, Nick,
yes.
I don't think he's expected to be a superstar or a guy who creates headlines as soon as he comes into the league.
Yep.
But from all reports, this guy is ready-made at the NBA level. Firstly, obviously, I mentioned before, he's a multi-positional player. And I think in the NBA these days, there is almost a requirement, or at least it's highly desirable for players to be multi-positional, both on the offensive end and defensive end. And the good thing with Johnny is that on the offensive end, he can play pretty much like his main position is a small forward shooting guard, but on the defensive end, he can guard 1 to 3, which I think is highly important.
Switching now, isn't there? That you have to, like, if you're not able to kind of man any and all positions, you are going to get found out and targeted very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
Very, very quickly.
And the other thing with him is he's very good on the transition ball. So, which I think is really important and probably something that goes underrated these days. You've got guys who will give it their all on the offensive end and try and get that bucket, but when it comes time to play a bit of D, they're nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And I think from all reports that I've been reading is he's a guy who is likely to give all his effort on every single play, whether that be the offensive play or the defensive play. He plays with a really aggressive mindset. So I can see him next year, whatever team he plays for, I can see him having an impact. Perhaps as a guy who comes off the bench, gives his all for 5-minute spurts at a time, and then heads back to the bench and just lifts the team a bit.
Yeah.
So the other thing I might just mention quickly is for a small forward / guard, those 8.2 rebounds stood out to me in his stat line in his sophomore year. I think 8.2 rebounds, that would probably be up there in the upper echelon of not only guards and small forwards in this draft. I think that would be up there in big men, legitimate big men as well. 8 points, that's nothing to be sneezed at, particularly for a guy who stands at 6'5".
Yep.
Now, as with all of these guys, there's things that they need to work on going forward.
Yeah, so we kind of left them out. Yeah, we were high on the horse.
I'll give you the full report.
Yeah, good.
So the things that Johnny might need to work on going forward is his playmaking ability. I think he averaged only a little over 2 assists per game in his sophomore year, and there's just been a few sort of whispers of him not having the best decision making when it comes to his playmaking, which will come with
standard.
I think so. I think it is, and just his shot selection as well. Yeah. Johnny needs to sort of think about which shots to take and take high percentage shots. Very aggressive player, so sometimes he doesn't think it fully through. But
you sound like you're absolutely given at school the full when you got your report card at school. Like Johnny needs to be aware of what he's doing and more conscious of his decisions. This is full out of the teacher playbook.
Johnny, if you're listening, this is just constructive criticism. But all in all, I'm really excited to see Johnny Davis next year. I think he can make an impact.
Going to put you on the spot here.
JD.
Lee and myself didn't do it, but just a question, off the top of your head, we are in the deep end here. What team do you think he would most fit well with here?
I was thinking about this.
I have put you on the spot here.
Yeah, look, maybe coming off the bench for the New Orleans Pelicans. I think.
Let me transition that question. Would you like to see more on a rebuilding team where he gets a little more game time, or kind of on a I guess a better, more established team, less game time, but he's under the tutelage of some really high quality players?
I think this can work out either way really well for him, because in his sophomore year he was the leader for Wisconsin. He was the guy driving their offense, and he was pretty much their heart and soul. Yeah. So if he needed to take more responsibility, it's not necessarily anything that it wouldn't be new territory for him. In saying that, I think it's beneficial for some of these rookies to not have too much responsibility from the get-go, unless you're like a prodigy, in which case
go forth.
Take it.
Yeah.
But I think, going onto a team where he's not required to do everything, at least not from the get-go, would be really beneficial. As I was saying, I think New Orleans Pelicans, just to give the main three blokes, main three starters, a bit of rest, but still bring the hustle and intensity and passion when they go to the Pine.
I like it.
Because when the second stringers come on, you want to make sure you have someone who's still giving it their all.
Good team in terms of being part of success for the next couple of years, you would imagine, on the rise.
Yeah,
so.
It'd be a team that he'd love to go to, I'm sure.
Tell you what, lads, I'm quite excited for this upcoming draft, and I'm glad we're doing this now. Got a bit of time now to get more acquainted with a few of these players. Lee,
when
excited?
is the draft?
July, I believe.
Yep.
Mid-July.
Oh, what are we at? May, June?
Yeah, end of May here.
Flying through it.
We've got a few weeks, but it's always an exciting little period in time. Just seeing the fresh faces. They are going to shape the league for the coming decade, the coming years. It's always exciting that first game when you get onto 2K.
Yeah,
see all the updated squad lists.
It makes your year. Tell you what, there's I was having a look through the mock drafts. There's a few really funky names in this NBA draft coming up. Yeah, it's hard to not pick some of these guys just based off name alone. I wanted to look into a few of these.
Week, a fun name one.
Yeah.
Fun name week.
Saw Johnny Davis.
Fun name week. Yeah, that is quite good, Johnny Davis. But fellas, it has been one hell of an episode. It's been one hell of a week. The news has been fast and furious. We're coming into the back end of it now. Only a couple of weeks to go. We are, possibly as of tomorrow, touch wood.
Well, for our sake, I hope.
Going to be entering the NBA finals. I'll tell you what, God, if we go to a game 7, what a sweat there'll be. Otherwise,
flack we'll get.
We will look like such dickheads.
Yeah. Yep.
What else is new?
There's always a delete button.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, that's big, isn't it? Deleting the episode off a wrong call, but
sorry guys, technical difficulties.
Yeah, we've used that one a few times. I think we're almost like the boy who cried wolf. We've used our 3 lives, but looking forward to that next week, lads. We'll be able to discuss game 1 in depth. I reckon we'll go game 1 in depth of what actually transpired for the NBA finals. We'll have our draft deep dive. We'll look forward to doing that.
Yep.
It's going to be a big week. I'm pumped. Are you pumped?
A lot to get through it. Come on, Beantown boys. One more game.
One more. They've got it.
One more.
And then 4
more. That's it. Guys, as always, be sure to stay up to date with all of our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. It's probably more going to be on the off season, but in the next couple of weeks, we've got some exciting news to share with you. Just ironing out a couple of last pieces of the process here, but be sure to stay tuned because it is exciting. We're thoroughly looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, wherever you listen to the show. Share with a friend. We certainly appreciate it.
Please do.
Guys, until next week, this is Lee, Ro, and myself saying love you, bye.